Hello, y'all. Welcome back to Baylin's Book Club. It's me, Baylin. You already know the drill. What is your little drink? Is this the same one I had last time? Don't remember, but I know last time I had it, I said I'm obsessed. I'm still obsessed. That's my little drink, but my actual little drink, guys. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna finish her up real good. So we are starting a new book today, and I'm actually extremely excited. First of all, because again, look how cute it is. I know I showed this in the outro of my last video, but I mean, in case you didn't see it, child, it's just a beautiful book. But more than that, I am super excited because this is going to be the first book on the channel that is an American classic and also is a book that I have never read before. I have no idea what happens. I have no idea how it ends. I don't know anything about the characters. I have no emotional connection to this book yet. That's going to change very quickly, actually. But I can't get ahead of myself. So, as you know, before I start any new book, I always want to go over some facts and do like a little bit of background. And I know before I would go over the medals and what they mean and kind of what it takes to achieve like the Newbery medal or oh, now I'm forgetting. What's the other one for Black people? Well, anyways, um, but I wanted to know what makes something an American classic, and my answer was white people. Yeah, old white people, they just pick 'em. That's pretty much, the gist of it. Usually, when you're looking at American classics, you're not gonna be getting so much, like, fantasy and, like, fictional type thing. This is fiction, but it's most definitely historical, like, dramatic fiction, and it has to do with the Civil War, and really what an American classic is something that heavily affects the American psyche and our culture as Americans, something that really plays off of what it is to be an American at that time, right? And when I say at that time, contemporary books are not really going to be labeled as American classics. So American classics, I think it said they take place, oh great, I didn't write down the date. I think it said like before 1945. So they're a little bit old, child. So yeah, it just has to be an old book that a lot of American people liked and they felt like it affected us as a country, so now it's a classic, and that's really all you need. So, let's get into it. I kind of lied. Before we get into it, on top of doing that little, like, overview, I wanna do background on the setting of this book because I feel like it'll really help us understand kind of what's going on better because I didn't look up the setting of this book before I started it, and I wish I had. So this takes place between 1863 to 1866 in Concord, Massachusetts, which is during the latter half of the Civil War. So brush up on that history. The North, they don't like slavery. At least that's what they say, okay? And we'll get into that later. The South, they love slavery, they love it. So that's kind of what they're living through right now. The nation is poor, stricken with war. Things are changing. It's a time of great change. And I really want us to make sure that we're understanding that we have very polarizing views that we're going to be dealing with in this book because America was polarized at this time, right? And we see people transitioning from an old way of thinking into a new way of thinking into a new America. And so we get to see that through these girls growing up in poverty at the end of the Civil War. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to start talking. So let's start talking. So, as y'all know by now, before I get to yapping about the actual story, I'm going to introduce the characters a little bit. But I've got two little disclaimers for you, okay? So, really, this is going to be a disappointing, like, character overview right now. Um, the whole point of this book is to grow with the girls, to see their personalities develop and change, and see them transition into women. So the character descriptions that I'm going to give you, though it's not right now, are not going to fit them even by the end of this section that we're reading, just because they do so much growing and they do so much learning. And then my second little disclaimer is that I'm actually not going to be introducing any of the girls or their personalities or what they're about right now in the character section, because in the book, actually within the first, I think it's the first chapter or the second chapter, it gives us a description of the girls. So I'm going to go over that when we get to that point in the book so that I don't spoil it right now, right? So I will introduce a few characters though. We have Marmee. Marmee is the mother. So if you ever decide to read this book, you will see that they call their mom by her first name. And my black ass said, um, but that's just what they do. I love Marmee. She is a God-fearing woman, Jesus. And you might be like, and you love her? Well, yes. Well, yes, she is quite literally like a Christ-like figure to these girls because she guides them with such stoic love and grace. And it's always obvious that she loves them, even when she's scolding them, even when she's telling them, you shouldn't have done that. Like, you're low-key being kind of a bitch. Like, you're being ungrateful, da da da. It's always said with love. And they always receive her what is it called, advice very readily, and she just helps the girls grow so much, and she's just an amazing mother, and she made me cry within the first, like, 5 chapters of the book, okay, so I love Marmee. We're skipping over the girls. Okay, actually, I have 1 word for each of the girls. I'll give you that, I'll give you that. We have Meg. Meg is pretty. Joe is a tomboy. I feel like you could kind of guess that just from the name. Beth, anxiety. You know that song by Doechii? That's what I think whenever I see Beth's fucking name. And then we have Amy, she's blonde. Low-key, at least in this section, like, she's low-key kind of irrelevant. She has her one good scene where she does her thing, I will say that. Um, but she's low-key kind of irrelevant at this point, cannot lie. And then we have Laurie. Oh my gosh, I love Laurie. I love Laurie more than Joe does, and that is oof, that's a competition, child. Okay. He's the neighbor to the girls. He's super rich. He's super cute. And basically he joins their little club after a while. And then we have I call him Gramps just because he's the grandpa to Laurie. And in the book, he's called Mr. Lawrence, but I feel like saying Mr. Lawrence and Laurie, Mr. Lawrence, Laurie, I'm not saying that. So I'm just saying Gramps and Laurie. So keep that in mind. I forgot to actually introduce the man. Gramps is well-mannered enough. He cares for those around him, but he has a few glaring ways in which he is old-fashioned, which don't worry, we will get to those very quickly. I don't dislike Gramps though. There's a kind of, old-fashioned that I can deal with. For now, I can mostly deal with his kind of old-fashioned. So our first scene starts out on Christmas, okay? And remember, 4 girls, poor family, Civil War. It's Christmas, but it's not necessarily the most festive one in the entire world, right? So the very first lines we see are Joe complaining. That's how we are introduced to the first sister in the book. Joe is complaining about not having very many presents or presents at all for Christmas, and everyone starts chiming in and complaining like, "Yeah, where the fuck is our stuff?" And Meg, she is the oldest, chimes in and says, "Ah, we should be grateful because, the soldiers are out at war and we're here and we're doing great, and we should conserve our money because we're in war, but God." I wanna buy something. I wanna buy something, babe. And so they're all talking about what they wanna buy for themselves for Christmas, right? Because they know, maybe their mom is not financially in the position to be getting 4 girls, at least 2 presents each, something that they exactly super have been wanting all year. It's probably something a little bit expensive, and so they're like, "You know what? We've been working." Yes, they have been working. We'll get to that later. We've saved our money. Our little $4, $5, whatever, is not gonna help the army. We should buy our own stuff. Now, the reason that Meg is kind of more dead set on spending and brings it up first is because they weren't always poor. Yes, they were not always poor. And since Meg is the oldest, she remembers when they weren't poor and she remembers when they were spending like they weren't poor. So the lack of presents weighs a lot more heavily on her because she remembers when there were presents. And she's like, "Hey, what kind of Christmas is this, bro?" So that's our first scene, right? Is basically them being ungrateful and saying we deserve presents. And so that's when the books decides, hey, let's introduce the girls and kind of go over a cute little character description before we get into anything super juicy, so you can actually know what's going on, right? So I'm just gonna be reading from my thingy here. I want to get it right. I want to get it perfect. Slay. We have Meg. Margaret is her full name, but everyone calls her Meg. I don't remember the last time she was called Margaret in that book for real. She's 16 years old. This is the description in the book, okay? Plump and fair. Now, I have to imagine that for the 1880s, I'm guessing plump just means not sickly looking because I can't imagine, Meg is the pretty one. Meg is the pretty one. Everyone acknowledges that Meg is the pretty one. And no tea, no shade. Okay, just historically, the pretty one in the 1800s is probably not going to be a chubby girl. So when she says plump, I am literally guessing because some of the other um what's it called, sisters are described as like skinny or rail-like or thin, frail. I'm guessing that she just doesn't look sick. So that's what I'm going with. Um, she has soft brown hair, pretty hands that she's obsessed with, and overall she's just this gorgeous little thing, right? And she knows it. She knows she's a bad bitch. Period. She sweet 16. Yes. Then we have the second oldest, that's Joe, and I'm just gonna tell y'all right fucking now. Right now, I love Joe. I love Joe. I relate to her so heavily in like every aspect of her character. It's like actually a little bit crazy. Um, Oh, I just love Joe. Anyway, she's the second oldest. I'm also the second oldest. Anyways, she's lanky. That's what I say. Lanky, thin, awkwardly like proportioned. That's how they're describing Joe. Next to the plump and fair, you see where I kind of got that right. So she's very scrawny and long. And guess who else is scrawny and long and awkward? Me. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, she's 15, very tall. She's got browner skin. She's clumsy, long limbs, grayish eyes. I said, "Ooh, okay, Joe, period." And she needs to grow into her womanly body, okay? And so the reason that she's awkward and kind of leaning more into this like tomboy vibe is because she's like halfway to being a woman, but like not really there yet, and it's just awkward. Basically, like middle school, she's 15, just got out of middle school, finishing up puberty. She looked weird. She looks weird. I don't know. Teenagers are built weird before the age of like 17. Like they really are. Then they start looking like, actual people. But and I'm roasting myself too, okay? Because I was built fucking weird. But teenagers are built weird. That's just what she is. That's okay. And then we have Beth. She is the second youngest. She's 13 years old, rosy cheeks, very shy, like I said, anxiety, like detrimental to her life shy. And you have to remember, okay, we're in the late 1800s. So when I say detrimental, like, okay, um, excuse me, she's always daydreaming, drawing, and just doing creative things. And I really like Beth mostly. But the one thing I don't love is she's always talking down on herself and she's always talking down on her mental capacity, which we will see why, but she's not a dumb girl. There are dumb people in this book, and Beth is not one of them. And then we have the youngest, Amy. She's just kind of there. She's 12. She has blue eyes, pale skin. She's skinny, good-mannered. Mostly everyone likes Amy. There is one scene where I absolutely fucking hate this bitch. But other than that, pretty irrelevant. Anyways, we go back to the scene, right? The girls are done with their little conversation, and now they're talking about how they're excited for their mom to come home, and they're kind of just sprucing everything up, getting everything ready for when she comes home because they like to pamper her as soon as she sits down because at this point she is she's in a single like like one parent household, and not that she's a single mom. We'll get to why the dad's not there right now, but she is the only one like providing an income and going to work right now like for the house, right? So as soon as she comes home, the girls like to pamper her, put on her slippers, give her a little cup of coffee, tea, whatever, her toast and bread before she has her dinner, and just be like, sit down, Marmy, just sit down, baby, we got you. Well, they look over to her slippers and they see that they are beat the fuck up. They are raggedy. So then they're like, wait, instead of being selfish and just buying ourselves gifts, what if we all split on slippers for our mom? And they all agree, like, yes, this is what we want to do. They actually put her, Jesus, they put her together a little basket, a little Christmas basket, just with things that show they care about and love Marmee. When she comes home, she gets pampered by her girls and she says, come hither, come hither. We've got a note from your father. And basically, he's off at war. He is a priest in the war, he's a chaplain. Um, excuse me. And he's leaving notes for the girls. It's pretty heartfelt. It's pretty cute. I'm not like gonna get into it. It's basically just like, I miss you, I love you, da da da. And at the end of the note, he says, you know, y'all are growing into my little women. And that's how he ends the note. And that is why the book is called Little Women. Okay, it's from the dad. I think that's actually so cute that the dad is the one that coined the term and like not the mom. Um, I actually like the dad. So keep that in mind, at least for now. I mean, he's really like not there, but he's very loving, you know, so far from what I can see. He's very patient and he just seems like a pretty chill dude. I mean, I like his daughters and I like his wife. So it's like everyone exchanges their presents, everyone's super happy, and they are waiting for breakfast, right? They've been waiting a couple hours for this Christmas breakfast. They're ready to feast. Well, Marmy comes to the table and she's like, hey girls. So here's the TLDR, right? There is a starving family of 6 children down the street. There's a cat hair on my lip. How would y'all feel if instead of you guys eating this Christmas breakfast that you've been waiting hours for, instead we go down there and hand deliver it to them and give them a good Christmas? Now, it might seem like she's asking them a question, but she's not. She's saying, "Hey girls, we're gonna go down and give them our food." And the girls are like, "Great. Yeah, I guess so. Who am I to be selfish on Christmas when technically we've got everything we need? We can have a normal breakfast. That's fine." They end up obliging, obviously, and go down to help out the family with their mom, and they are obviously very grateful. Well, across the way, there is a little peeping Tom. Actually, let me not say that. Peeping Toms are creepy. Mr. Lawrence, aka Gramps, basically just notices that these girls who he knows are, you know, kind of poor. He's rich. He lives in his little mansion. Okay, he knows that these girls are kind of poor. He sees them anyway go give these people all of their Christmas breakfast food. And so he says, "Hey, I like that. Come to my house for a feast later tonight for Christmas dinner." Of course, it's not just him and the girls, he's also got some of his kids, grandchildren, you know, it's just a big feast, a big, fun Christmas get-together, right? And so they go, they have fun, they mingle, they eat, they say thank you to Mr. Lawrence, and then they go home. But the whole time, Joe is thinking, and I'm gonna take an aside, pin that, I heavily suspect that Jo is our main character because she is the only person whose thoughts we get to see. We do interact with the other girls a lot, but it really does feel as though we are looking at the world through Joe's eyes and through Joe's brain. I can't 100% say for sure, you know, they might switch it up. They've got enough characters, they've got enough girls to switch it up. But at this point, oh, hi, I do think Joe is like our main person who we're seeing things through. Okay, back to what I was saying, because of that, Joe, we get to see that she's thinking, I don't think like Gramps, he's pretty chill. I like him, you know, he obviously did a lot for us, but she's thinking like there's just an air of youth to this party that Gramps simply could not have provided. I know that little boy that lives in there that didn't come out for the party was behind this. And she's like, I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna prove myself right, and he better come out. The 2 oldest girls, Meg and Jo, get invited to a little holiday New Year's Eve party by this lady, you know, down the street somewhere named Miss Gardiner, Gardiner, Gardiner. They're obviously excited to go. You know, Meg gets to wear her fashionable clothes, and she's over here fantasizing. She's like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna wear? What's the latest fashions? Oh my gosh!" And Joe is just looking at her like, "Girl, you have one nice dress. Like, we gonna wear the nice dresses we always wear. What the fuck are you talking about? Hello?" I Joe is so fucking funny. They go to get their clothes, obviously, to start getting ready, and Joe remembers, "Oh, yeah. So I actually, have a burn on my one nice dress, and there's also, like, a hole in it, and also my gloves are destroyed." Now, Meg doesn't care about the dress, she's like, "It's okay, like, the hole we can't see, the burn at the back, stand against the wall, babe. Don't dance with anyone and let them see that hole at the back of your fucking dress." But Meg freaks out about the gloves. She's like, "It's indecent. I can't believe you would have me going out somewhere in our" what does she say? "In our poplins," which I will put a picture of what poplins are. "In our poplins and no gloves, Joe." And Joe says, I actually don't care. I'll go without gloves. Like it's not that deep. And Meg says, I'm not going if you don't wear gloves, Joe. Very sisterly activities going on. You just have to imagine the other two are just like sitting, watching them go at it. She's like, I'm not going if you don't wear gloves, Joe. And Joe's like, well, I really don't know what you want me to do. I don't have an extra pair of gloves. Um, so I guess we just won't go. And Meg is like, no, 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 wait. We can just do half and half. Okay, I'll wear one of my nice pretty gloves like this. You'll wear one of my nice pretty gloves like this. And then the other one we're gonna drape over. We're just gonna drape her over like this, and we'll walk around like this and be classy. And Joe is like, okay, bro. Because Joe is wearing one of her sister's accessories, she has to be on her best behavior at this party and not get into stuff and not be clumsy and rowdy and doing sport things. So really, she kind of has to confine herself into this glove for the party and not really show her personality as much. But it's okay, Joe. We're gonna make it through, right? So then they start doing their hair. Oh my god, I said they start doing their hair, but really it's just Meg. Meg is in the bathroom, and the other three girls are kind of working on her and doing her hair, with Joe being the main one, obviously, because like she's the oldest, so she probably knows how to do it the best, or at least she should. So what they're doing right now is they're curling Meg's hair. Okay, and I don't know fully the process that they did to curl hair in the 1800s. I'm sure they don't have an electric hair curler. What is it? It's called a hair curler, right? Curlers. Rollers. No, they used rollers, I think. They used something. Okay. And in the end, Joe burns off Meg's hair. In fact, while they're all sitting around watching, Joe doing Meg's hair and just kind of talking before the sisters go off to the party, Amy is like, oh, is that steam? I didn't know it got that hot. And Joe's like, yeah, it's just steam. And then they take the thingies off and her hair is on the floor. So it wasn't just steam. Meg is the pretty one, okay? And a big part of being pretty is your hair. Like, just no tea, no shade. Like, a big part of being conventionally attractive is also having the conventionally attractive hair to go with it. So when you burn off a 16-year-old girl's hair, um, 30 minutes before her New Year's Eve party, it, she starts crying. Well, yes, she does start crying. However, there are four girls in that bathroom, okay? And they turned that bitch out. They said, "Girl, stop your crying. We can do a cute little bob, a cute little fuck ass bob, okay, with some curls too." And they get her right. So all is well, their mom sees them off to the party and they're off to have a great time, right? Well, that's only like 50% right. Meg is having an amazing time. Men are coming up to her. She's beautiful. She's dancing. Everyone's talking to her. She's mingling. She's having a great time. However, Joe is literally a wallflower. One, because she can't show the back of her dress. So she's literally standing against the wall so no one can see her disheveled bullshit, basically. And she can't even dance because one turn and oh, they can see my dress is fucked up. Or, he puts his hand on the small of your waist. Stop. I was on Wattpad as a child. Um, as soon as a man does that, well then, you're fucked. So she's just standing against the wall, and since she can't show her personality by talking to people, and unfortunately she is not the prettier sister, well, no one is approaching her. And she's just kind of standing there watching her pretty sister have fun. Did I just hit the mic? I'm so sorry. Um, but then a man does start approaching Joe to try and either talk to her or dance with her or whatever it is. And you know what she does? She hides. Joe is basically my self-insert, so I'm gonna self-insert some lore because it's really reminding me of something I did when I was, not 15, I was 13, right? Yeah, I got asked to the 8th grade dance, and, I wasn't really fond of, like, men. I'm still not. I've got the one, and that's really all I need to do. Um, he was like, "Will you go to the 8th grade dance with me?" And I said, like, literally made that exact noise, and then I walked to the bus and went home. So I get you, Joe. I get you, babe. She decides that her hiding spot is going to be behind this curtain. And keep in mind, like, they're super rich people. It's a super rich house, right? So a curtain, it's not like just those like see-through, billowy, poor people curtains, okay? It's like those ones with like the reinforced tops that are like hard, you know what I mean? And then like the thick, like opaque I'm pretty sure it's like a velvet. Like, think of that kind of what is it called? Why am I losing the word? Curtains. There we go. Think of that kind of curtain. So she gets behind the curtain and someone says, "Oh," and she says, "Oh, I didn't know this was taken. I'm so sorry." And it ends up being a boy. It ends up being the Lawrence boy. And he says, "Wait, it's okay, Queen." Obviously, Joe asks him, "What are you doing back here?" Like, I know what I'm doing back here, but what are you doing back here? Like, you're a super rich boy. You should be used to these parties. And he basically tells her, "Yeah, I don't really like parties and I don't really like people. My grandfather is here, so I'm here. And by here, I mean hiding behind the curtain." And Joe says, "Oh my God, same." So they get to talking and he's like, "Yo, please don't call me my real name. Now, my real name is Theodore, but when I tell that to men, they call me Dora because I'm kind of like scrawny and I like music and I'm kind of feminine. So please just call me Laurie." And that's when he introduces himself as Laurie. And she says, "It's so funny you say that because I actually hate that my full name is Josephine," which I actually haven't said up until this point, but her full name is Josephine. And she says, "But everyone calls me Joe because that's my name. My name is Joe." And so they're like, "Oh, well, hello, Joe." And she says, "Well, hello, Laurie." And that is after a bit of talking, Laurie naturally asks Joe to dance. And she says, "My dress is messed up. My sister is out there being prettier than me, and I just don't want to dance." And he says, "Okay, what if we dance in this cute little side hallway that no one's in, that's super secluded, no one will care about your dress. I just want to dance with you because it's fun and I love dancing and I love music." Like, I can't get ahead of myself. They're friends. They're friends. Jo is having her moment. She's dancing with a boy. She's feeling comfortable. Her guard is down. And then, of course, her sister Meg has to ruin it. And she says, "Jo, come here," from a random room across the way. So obviously, Jo goes sprinting to her sister, where she finds out that while she was dancing, she sprained her ankle. And at first, I was like really mad at this scene because I was like, "You're interrupting her dance with her little boyfriend." But then I was like, "Oh, your ankle." And then Meg wasn't even being super like inconveniencing. She was like, "Please, I want you to have fun." She tells her, she's like, "I don't want to leave. I want you to enjoy yourself at the party. I just need to ask for a quick little favor. Please just get me a little drink from the kitchen." She asked for a coffee. She's like, "Please, please, just a little drink. And then I will sit here and I will sip my coffee and I will wait till we are ready to go home." And Joe says, "Okay, I'll go make you a coffee," right? How bad could that be? So she goes over to make the coffee, and unfortunately, she spills it all over the front of her dress. Yes, yes, she absolutely does. Immediately. Immediately, she does. But it's not her fault, okay? She's clumsy. That's part of her character. That's what I tell myself when I drop things, right? Um, and what does she do to try and clean up the wet coffee stain? Well, of course, she takes off her sister's glove and tries to pat it dry. The one thing that she was not supposed to mess up at the party. And then she goes, "Oh, shit." Lori walks into the kitchen and obviously sees the mess that Joe has made of herself. And obviously, Joe's embarrassed, but he's like, "Girl, I don't give a fuck." Like, let me help you make the coffee, though. Like, and where's your sister? Like, what happened? What's going on? So he goes to help deliver the coffee. Obviously, he assesses the situation. He's like, "Yo, I'm not really down for parties. I usually leave early. Do you girls need a ride home?" They take up the cute boy on his offer to chauffeur them back home, and, it doesn't hurt that Meg has to lean on him a little bit to get to the carriage, okay? And, they had a great time. They go home. Obviously, her mom is like, "What the fuck happened to your ankle, little girl?" But she's like, "Don't worry, mom. We had so much fun." Joe says, "Yes, we had just as much fun as the rich people, even though we're poor. Like, it doesn't matter. We had all these setbacks and we still had just as much fun." And Meg agrees with her, even with her burnt hair and sprained ankle. This morning after the party, we learned that the girls actually do have to go to work. Well, the two oldest girls, Meg and Joe, actually do have to go to work. And Meg is complaining that she has to go to work instead of just being able to party all day like the rich people, and she wishes, she could just lounge and laze and be pretty. And we learned that her job is basically like babysitting these kids and also like teaching them a little bit. And Joe goes to work for with on their Aunt Marsh, who's actually kind of a bitch. And she's this little old lady who's disabled and cannot work for herself, basically. And the reason both of these girls are working is actually not even for themselves. It is to help their aunt because her husband, let me see if I remember this without looking at my script, wanted to help someone by like giving them a house or like renting them a house or something like that. Somehow the house was lost based on lies and deceit. He was never able to recoup that money and they became extremely poor and then he died. Right. And then obviously she's a disabled old lady, so she cannot work. So the girls took it upon themselves, hey, she's family, like I can look after her, you can make the money, and then we can slay. And they do that honestly of their own volition. While Meg and Joe are at work, Amy goes to school, and you might be wondering, well, what about Beth? Well, you know how I said she's really anxious. She's so anxious that she cannot attend school. Like it's just not something she can do. Like, even her going out with her sisters and going to parties, like, it's a huge tax on her, and she usually doesn't even mingle at the parties. She's usually over in her own little area drawing or something like that. So she really just going to school is just not something that's going to happen for her. So instead, she studies at home, and the book describes her as being very housewifely. So, cooking, cleaning, the book goes on a little tangent to explain kind of the inner dynamics within the four girls' relationships. So Meg has kind of raised Amy, and Joe has kind of raised Beth. There we go. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I got it right. Meg, Amy, Joe, Beth. Okay. And the way that I can really remember it is that Beth and Joe are basically opposites. So I think it's really interesting that Joe has kind of taken that motherly role onto Beth and she turned out like completely opposite to her. I think, at least for Amy, like one of her descriptions is that she's well mannered and, she's generally likable. So I feel like it makes sense that Meg kind of had that influence on her growing up. But I also think that it fits Joe very nicely. It fits Beth very nicely to kind of be influenced by someone who is so contrasting from you. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind if you're seeing like parallels between the girls and you're like, oh, Amy's kind of acting like Meg or Beth is kind of acting like that. Well, that's why they basically, each adopted a sister. The book says that they look at their younger siblings with the maternal instinct of Little Women. Let's get into that, shall we? I know it's the 1800s, late 1800s, okay, I get it. Like, what women do is cook and take care of kids. Like, I get it, I get it. But first of all, let's address the term Little Women, okay? So far I am liking the book. I do like the premise, like it's super slay, but the term Little Women really grinds my gears. Little Women is not a thing. Little Woman, no, that is a girl. That is a child. Yes, she's not a woman, she's a child. That's why there's a different word, right? Um, but again, literally, literally a different time period, literally different expectations for women. Like, I get it, but it still does get under my skin. And like, what if they didn't have a motherly instinct? Why are you just banking on the fact that they do because they're women? Oh, but because they have to, because they can't do anything else. Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. My feminist bullshit aside, these two girls do have very motherly instincts towards their siblings. And the next day, we actually see this in Joe, of all people. She's outside shoveling snow and she's shoveling a nice little path in the backyard. And you might be like, well, why is she shoveling a path of snow in the backyard? It's so Beth, it's so Beth can bring her chronic invalid dolls outside for sun as she does every morning because obviously they're disabled, so they can't walk outside themselves and get sun. So she carries them out literally every day um to get sun and air. And so Joe is making a path so her weird little sister can carry her dolls outside and pretend they are disabled. And you know what? A mother will do anything for her child. Jo is just also using this as an excuse to be outside because she likes being outside and she kind of needs a reason to be outside in the like 4 feet of snow. So she's like, yeah, I'm just shoveling like a path for Beth. Yeah. But obviously she starts wandering and she starts thinking about the Lawrence boy and how maybe, well, she could just pay him a cute little neighborly visit, right? She sees Laurie in the window kind of looking at her, and so she throws a rock and she's like, "Yo, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm actually incredibly sick, so I can't hang out today, girl. So sorry." And she's like, "Well, you don't have anything in there to entertain yourself. Like, why are you looking out the window so longingly?" She didn't say that. Sorry, that was kind of my little Wattpad self-insert. She says, "Why are you looking outside? Do you have nothing inside to entertain yourself? You don't have a cute girl that will read to you?" She does say that. She does say that. She says, "You don't have a cute girl to read for you inside?" And he says, "You want to know what he says? You want to know?" He said, "I don't know any." This girl is outside in feet of snow, coming up to your rich ass fucking window and throwing a rock, saying, "Don't you have a pretty girl in there to entertain you while you're sick?" And nigga, you wanna say, "I don't know him?" He says back to this, "Well, you know us." Obviously, she wanted to say, "Well, you know me, bitch." But, Jo knows time and place. She's like, "For pretty girls." She's like, "Hold that thought. I'll be right over. I just need to ask my mom if I can go over to your house." And so that's what she does, is she runs in to go get her mom, and Laurie's like, "Okay, like, that's gonna be so slay. I'll be right here waiting for you." And, he's kind of playing it off super chill, right? No. As soon as she turns around to go run back into the house to ask her mom if she can go over to this low man's house, he turns around and starts frantically cleaning his room. Keep in mind, this boy is sick. Like, he's actually for real sick. He's kind of a sickly child. Um, and he's just like rushing, like it's like a frenzy, like a fever dream. He's like, oh my gosh, like Joe is coming. Oh my God. And I just really love this scene because again, like this is the 1880s and you could put this scene in 2025. People still do it. I know. When you get that text from your man or your girl that's like, oh, 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, and you're like, oh shit, I need to take out the trash. I need to wipe the toilet. I need to do my bed. I need to put away my laundry. And you're just here, here, there, there. Well, that's what Laurie's doing right now for the girl that's not pretty, right? Ends up coming over and bringing a couple of her books because, she loves books and she loves writing anyway. So this is literally the perfect pastime for her to read to a captive audience that she also, doesn't mind hanging around. Um, and he confesses while they're talking that he often looks at the girls through his window and longs to live. He says they're very lively, they're alive, they're living their lives. He sees them laughing and playing and, doing make believe and having just intense relationships with each other. And he looks out the window longingly and he's just like, damn. And I can only imagine this is how it feels being an only child and like being friends with people who have siblings. I mean, I don't have to think. I know my mom is an only child. She don't understand shit about having a sibling. Oh my gosh, she'll be like, "Why are you guys fighting?" It's like, "Babe, we're just having a normal conversation." Like, I don't know. But basically he's just like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of like envious of you and your sisters. You guys have so much fun and you guys are so slay." And she says, "Well, Laurie, instead of being a weirdo and staring at us, you could just come over. We would let you in." Laurie says that he's probably going to take her up on that offer, and then they go back to talking. And it's pretty obvious that Laurie doesn't get to talk to people his age as much because he heavily, heavily loves talking to Joe. Because again, like imagine the only people in your house are like the servants, your grandpa, and then your like tutors for school. That's dead ass all he talks to. No one else. No one else on a daily basis. He has some friends abroad, but again, like, it's not like their cell phones. He can't text them, he can't FaceTime them. So, at where he's at now, he has no friends. He's surrounded by adults. So he loves talking to Joe. Joe cracks him up, has him laughing so fucking hard to the point where the servants come in because they're like, we ain't never heard this little boy laugh before. And they pop their head in and they're like, oh, this little boy has a girl in his room. They move over to the library, obviously, because Joe loves the library, and she's like, "Laurie, I'm in a mansion right now, and I'm your guest, and I love libraries, so take me to the library." And he's like, "Oh, okay, like, that's not really my thing, but go ham, girl, have fun. Like, you can wander around the house and leave me in my room for all I care." Well, while they are chilling in the library, guess who comes in? Gramps. Guess who didn't really tell Gramps that he was having a girl over today? Any guesses? It was Laurie, yes. So Gramps walks into the library because he likes hanging out in there and he sees Joe and she's like, I didn't know you would be here. Hi, sir. Hello. Hi, your son. I mean, your grandson. He's great. I'm here. Hi. I'm Joe. Oh, that was the mic. You know what? That's probably how awkward she was though. Like, she and I, we're one of the same, right? And he goes, I used to know your grandfather, so I'll give you a pass. At least I know your bloodline. You're not some little whore. I mean, that's not what he says, but that's what he's thinking. And even later on in the book, he admits that Laurie probably is not going to get into any, pregnancy trouble because he calls the house a little nunnery. He says, Laurie's not going to get in trouble in that little nunnery over there. But at this point, he's like, my college age son has a teenage girl in the home and I didn't know. So what the fuck are y'all doing? Joe and Gramps say their awkward little hi and hello, and they get, a little bit more comfortable now knowing that each other is in the house. And Joe ends the conversation. I love Joe so much by saying, I really just wanted to be neighborly. I was just being neighborly, sir. Girl, girl. I hope Joe knows that she's not fooling anyone, especially not an adult. But Gramps is like, whatever, you guys are friends, like, you and your sisters are welcome in the house whenever you want. My son obviously needs company, and if it's some little girl, as long as y'all aren't doing something stupid, like, I guess I don't care. There's servants and eyes all around the house. So really, he's just like, Laurie, just tell me when you have a girl over, please. Like, it's very teenager. It's very teenager. Like, literally, you could have this conversation with a teenager right now, probably in the exact same way, using the exact same words. And probably the outcome will be the exact same, which is that they're not going to tell you when they have a girl over. But we also learn about Gramps, Mr. Lawrence, in this visit as Laurie starts playing the piano for Joe. And Joe's over there drooling over him. She's like, God, Laurie, you're such a musician. That's so beautiful. Ah. He comes over and he's like, girl, stop sucking his dick. He's not that good. Get off the fucking piano, son. And he gets off the piano. Right. And then, they hang out for a little bit longer. And then Joe goes home and she's like, Mom. And her mom's like, yeah, what's up, girl? She's like, do you know Mr. Lawrence? And she's like, of course I know Mr. Lawrence. He and I go way back, bitch. Like, he literally knew my dad or her dad's dad, whichever one. I don't know. And she says, why do you think he doesn't want Laurie playing the piano? Because he said that Laurie is really bad at playing the piano, but he's amazing. So, like, what's his problem? And she's like, well, sit down, girl, sit down. The reason Laurie lives with his grandfather is because both of his parents are dead. Yes, well, yes. Laurie is also half Italian. His mother was Italian, right? So his dad was Gramps' son, right? Gramps don't like the little Italian lady. This is the old fashioned that we're getting into. Okay. Does it explicitly say he didn't like Laurie's mom because of racism? No, but let's look at it this way. Laurie's mom was a very talented musician, raised an amazing and respectful son, married a wealthy dude, and obviously didn't take all of his wealth away, and, wasn't there for the wrong reasons, as far as we know, and he still didn't like her, and the only thing that the book is saying he didn't like her for is that she was Italian. Laurie favors his mom and not his dad already. So he's already, kind of looking, constantly reminded of this woman that he never wanted his son to marry slash procreate with whenever he looks at Laurie. But then him playing the piano further reminds him of Laurie's mom. And he's like, you gotta wrap it the fuck up. You can't look and act like her. Move. Basically says, oh, unfortunate. Anyways, is Laurie allowed to like come over whenever he wants? And this is so funny. Her mom says, "Yeah, Joe, your little friend is welcome whenever he wants to come over." And I just think that's so funny. Little friend in 1883. Y'all talking about little friend? Y'all been patronizing your kids since the dawn of time? When Joe is talking to her mom or, like, when Meg is talking to her mom, they're usually just all together. They're kind of like a mom unit, the mom and the 2 oldest girls. So just always assume that, like, if they're having a conversation, unless explicitly stated otherwise, that, like, the other is there, Meg and Joe, right? So Meg is there, and she's saying, "Girl, it's obvious that fucking Laurie has a crush on you, you dumbass bitch. Like, what are you talking about right now? Like, why are we skipping over that?" You're telling all these stories about what y'all were doing when you were over at the house, and yet I don't hear, "Mom, I think Lori likes me." Her mom tells her to cut it out and that basically, Joe is a child. She's not thinking about that right now. She hasn't finished her puberty yet. She actually really doesn't care, or at least that's what she wants people to think, whether Lori likes her or not, and they're just friends. And basically, she's like, "Meg, keep that on Wattpad. Stay away from your sister." We're basically just seeing the relationship between the girls and Laurie grow as they go back and forth between the houses and they do different things while they're at Laurie's house, right? And so one person that I really wanted to highlight because she does do a lot of growing in these, 2 to 3 chapters is Beth. So she loves going over to the Lawrence household to play on their piano because, like I said, she loves doing creative things. She loves doing musical things. And it's hard to teach yourself music when you don't have any instruments, right? So she loves going over to their house to play the piano. And it's to the point where these people are getting to know each other so well that Lori knows Beth is extremely anxious and shy, and she doesn't need anyone else to be in that piano room while she's in there. And it's to the point where Lori is shooing the servants away when they try and go like check on her or bring her water. He's like, leave her alone. Get away. Get away. You will not scare her. So we can just see them learning more about each other, dealing with each other's dynamics, and kind of like growing together. And it's really slight, it's really cute. And I like that Lori did that for her because, as we will see a little bit later, if a servant had approached her, yeah, she probably wouldn't have gone back for a while. In fact, one of the first times that she goes over, she's sitting on the piano, and Gramps, Mr. Lawrence, he's old, so his eyesight is a little not there. So he hears piano, but he don't see piano. And he goes, "Hey, who's on the piano?" And Beth is like, she's like scared of him for like the next 2 weeks. Gramps feels bad. His intention was not to scare Beth, and he didn't even know Beth was so easily scared. But as she keeps coming over and he's, kind of not avoiding her, but just being more careful around her, they're realizing that they actually get along quite well, mostly because Gramps, he used to be even more of a Gramps before his granddaughter died. And his granddaughter looked a lot like little Beth. So, of course, obviously, he takes a liking to Beth once she finally is able to approach him again and dotes on her and just love her and treats her like, he treats all the girls fairly well, but he really treats Beth like they are related and she is his granddaughter to the point where he sees that Beth is really committing her time on the piano and getting better. So, his now late granddaughter it's called a closet piano. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm guessing it's a piano that fits in a closet. So like just a mini piano. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna ship this over to the Little Women house. I'm forgetting their last name, so we'll just call them the Little Women house. And I'm gonna give it as a present for Beth because I'm sure she wants to actually be able to practice in her own home too, right? Well, Beth loves this present so much that to everyone's surprise, she goes over to the Lawrence household by herself to go personally tell Mr. Lawrence thank you, and she gives him a hug. And she decides, you know what, in return, I'm gonna make him some slippers. What she didn't know is that the print she picked for the slippers for him is actually his favorite flower. So he's ever so grateful to have her present as well. And they're so cute. I love them. And as you can see, we're already seeing the girls grow and come out of their comfort zones just simply by interacting with their neighbors, being neighborly. This is a great scene. This is a great scene. You will be angry though. You will be so angry when I'm done talking. So just keep that in mind. If you have a hit, take a hit. I'm about to take one right now, child, because Beth and Joe get invited to a movie with Laurie a couple days later. Not get invited, Laurie invites Beth and Joe to go see a movie with him. Okay. He's treating the girls. Ugh, I love Laurie. I just really love Laurie. Like he says some fuck shit sometimes because he's like antisocial, but he really is a gentleman and he treats the girls well. So the two oldest girls are getting ready to see their movie, and they're trying to keep it on the low because y'all know how siblings get when they want to do something that you don't want to do with them, right? That's what we're dealing with. So Amy comes up. It is Amy, right? Mhm. Amy comes up and she's like, what are you guys getting ready for? And Joe's like, nothing. Go away. Like literally. She's just like, I'm not entertaining you right now. I'm getting ready and we're leaving. Go away. And she's like, what are you guys doing? You're gonna go see that movie with Laurie, aren't you? We were supposed to all see that movie later this week with mom. And Joe goes, bitch, we'll watch it again with mom. Laurie invited us today, so we're going with him, and you're not going. And she's supposed to, oh, well, I want to hang out with Laurie. I want to hang out with Laurie too. It's not fair you guys just get to go with Laurie. And you can see it's brewing. Okay. It's brewing. And Meg is like, babe, like, no. And so Amy starts throwing a fit, and eventually Meg is a pushover and she's like, fine, whatever. Because Amy does say, well, Marmy said I could go. Marmy said I could go. It's giving, oh, well, yeah, you can go. Just bring your little sister. No, nigga, why would I want to bring her? Why would I? And that's exactly what Joe is on. She says, okay, bitch, if you go, I'm not going. And if I don't go, Lori's not gonna have fun. Plus, it's rude because he didn't invite you. Well, Amy literally throws a tantrum on the floor and starts screaming, crying. And they both look at her like, girl, get it together. And they leave while she is crying on the floor. They leave. Amy takes this as a personal attack from Joe and she vows to get her revenge, which she does. And yeah, she just keeps getting worse. So what Amy decides to do, we all know that Jo loves books, she loves writing, she loves plays, she loves anything that's in that realm. Okay, their father went off to war and she started writing a book that she wanted to have finished by the time he came back because obviously she wanted to either read it with, to, or like give it to him or something along those lines. She takes the book and she throws it into the fireplace. And she says, well, have fun with Laurie. Jo comes home, and obviously, after a while, she notices that her book, not like her book, like this is my book. Okay, this is my book. Her book, her book that she has spent weeks, months writing, thinking about, editing, putting together. And she's like, bitch, where's my fucking book? And she's like, You won't be able to get it back. I threw it in the fire. And guess what Joe does? Punches her in the side of the fucking head, as she should. And in that moment, Meg doesn't even defend her. Meg doesn't come to the defense of her daughter. No, she says, bitch, you deserve that. Why the fuck would you do that? Why the fuck would you? Hello? You shouldn't be throwing anything into the fire, let alone something like that. Truly, like, that's a piece of someone. And again, like, you do have to remember, though, okay, this is not a regular friendship or relationship. This is a sibling relationship, okay? I remember. Oh, let me expose myself. I remember I was just being like a bitch of a little kid, okay? I don't remember exactly how old I was, maybe like 7 or 8, so my brother was probably like 4 or 5. He had a leap pad. You know those leap pads where it had the little pen attached to it by a string? Well, he pissed me off one day. Because he wouldn't stop crying. He would cry when he would see shadows in his room at night. It's like, nigga, your shit is echoing through the house. I have to wake up at 6 in the morning for school, for elementary school, because at that time we were in a different country. Bitch, you need to wake up at 6 a.m. Just like all the other adults. Let's go. I was just like, fuck you. So I cut I cut the pen off of his leap pad, rendering it literally useless. Literally. And, like, who did that hurt more, him or my parents? Definitely my parents, like, they paid for that. Um, but he was really sad. And so was I, because I would always use his leap pad. But just keep in mind, like, especially if you don't have siblings, I feel like most people have siblings, but if you don't have siblings, just keep in mind that they do shit like that. They do. And, like, I'm sorry, like, there's no, like, explanation. They just do shit like that. I can probably, if I sat here for like 2 minutes off camera, I could probably create a list for you of things, not even just that I've done, that we've all done to each other just on some fuck shit. Like, there's something about sharing the same womb that really, like, you cannot stand those niggas. Like, I don't know. But what she did was horrible and she deserves to suffer because what the fuck. Now Amy is like, okay, so basically we're even. Now I'm gonna go apologize and everything will be fine, right? And Joe tells her that was a despicable thing to do and I don't forgive you, fuck you. And Amy's like, well, now I wish I hadn't said sorry since you're not even gonna accept it. She thinks that to herself. She doesn't say it to Joe. She's not trying to get punched again. But obviously, she wasn't sorry if she's mad that Joe isn't accepting it and is now like, oh, I wish I never said it in the first place because you're not reacting how I want you to after I threw your book in the fireplace. Hello. Hello. The next morning, Laurie invites Joe to go out and ice skate with him. And she's like, yes, dude, like, I need to get out of this house. Like, you don't even know. Let me tell you what my bitch of a sister fucking did last night after I came home from the goddamn movie. She's like, yes, yes, let's go ice skating. Yes. Well, Amy obviously overhears that they're going ice skating, and she doesn't necessarily want to crash their plans like with the movie, but she wants to try and catch Joe in a good mood, since she's always in a good mood with Lori, and try to apologize to her then on some manipulative shit. Like, literally, like, that's actually so convoluted and crazy. Um, don't apologize in front of an audience. God. Um, but because she's like running after them and she's a little bit behind, she doesn't hear Lori telling Joe that there's a spot on the river slash lake that we're going to be skating on that has really thin ice. So just watch out. I want to make sure you're safe. Don't go over there. Okay. Amy doesn't hear that. So, of course, that's exactly where she goes. And Joe, for a split second, as she's skating away, sees Amy over there for a split second, and she thinks, I should stop, but my book. And she skates on by. I was rooting for Joe. I was like, right. And I would have done the same thing, right? Because why are you even outside? Again, you were not invited. So, well, of course, Amy falls into the water and she starts drowning because it's extremely cold water. I mean, if you've ever been in water that's just a little bit cold, you can. you know how it takes your breath away. So imagine falling in that icy, cold, frigid winter north what is that? Northeast water, like, and you're a little girl, a little 12-year-old girl. Well, Laurie and Joe obviously go over to save her, and Joe is done being mad at her, and she's like, "Holy shit! Like my sister could die right now. Like she could actually die." But she doesn't. They get her back to the house. You know, she's okay, if not cold and wet. She takes a good bath. Laurie goes home, obviously, and then basically Amy is napping for the rest of the day. Well, when Marmee comes home and, you know, everyone else is kind of asleep and they've gone away. This is a one-on-one conversation between her and her mom. And she just kneels at her feet and she's like, "Mom, like, you don't even know, like, I saw her go over there. Like, if she died, it would have been my fucking fault." And she says that to her mother, and she's just like, "I wish I could stop being so wicked. I wish I could stop letting my" I'm gonna fucking cry. Stop! This is exactly where I cried. Like, I feel like you can tell, like, I'm really trying. Oh my gosh. She's like, "I just wish I could stop being so wicked. I wish I could stop letting my emotions get the better of me. My sister could have died because of how emotional I am." And she was like, "Do you not see that, Mom? Like, oh my god, like, do you think I'm a monster?" And her mom tells her, "Well, I know you're not a monster because my temper was the exact same way, and that's who you get it from." And Joe, I can just imagine, like, Joe, you know, kind of, like, weeping at her mom's feet and then, like, slowly looking up, like, tears in her eyes and being like, and when I say again that their mom is this like godlike figure, is they really don't view her as someone with flaws because she helps them work on theirs so much. And so I also kind of feel like this was a moment where the halo around her mom's head kind of broke. And she was like, "Oh shit, like mom is a human too. Like mom was just an angry little girl too." And that's basically what she tells her. She's like, "Joe, like, you do need to get your anger under control. And I know because I've been trying to get my anger under control for 40 years." She says, "I still wake up and have to choose to not be angry. I still have to bite my tongue or leave situations or turn around when I feel it inside." And she's like, "I can see that in you and I can see that you struggle with it and I need you to start now because I don't want you to have to do this for 40 years." This conversation is the first real, you know, catalyst in Joe's character development because again, it shows her that her mom is human, but I also feel like it showed her that she could be her mom one day. All the girls, you know, obviously they aspire to be their mom. But you know, when you're that one kid that's just you don't know why you're so emotional, you don't know why you're so angry, you don't know why you're so sad. You just think, you know, I could never be that. Because when I'm feeling all this, there's no way I could ever grow into anything, but definitely not that. And I feel like it opened her eyes to really realize, like, you have time to be able to become that, and it is entirely possible, and no one I want everyone to, like, hear this, no one starts out a rational person. No one starts out mild-mannered, no one starts out well-tempered. You have to learn that, and you have to grow into it, and you have to understand yourself and other people to be able to behave like that in a world like this. You know what I mean? And I love this scene. I'm not crying now, but when I first read it in the book, honestly, that's why I had to procrastinate on this video. I know I say that every video. I literally cried, and then I had to put the book down for, like, 4 days because I was just like, I haven't cried over a book in probably, like, 10 to 12 years? Like, oh, media usually does not make me cry, but that scene, oh, that is a scene from a book that I think I will always remember. After the conversation with her mom is done, Joe goes over to where Amy is still sleeping on the couch, and she decides to pray over her sister and basically just be like, "I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen again, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm your sister and I'm your protector, and that should never have been a situation that was the result of me." And, it's not that she necessarily wakes Amy up, but more so that Amy has been sleeping for a long time, maybe is a little bit restless, is not the most asleep, and she wakes up and she doesn't say anything to Joe. Joe doesn't say anything to her, but Amy basically just leaps up and hugs her, and they both know that they both fucked up, but each other is forgiven. Sad stuff is out the way. Oh my gosh. Let's shake it off, guys. Let's take a little drink. But I might have put my other little drink in there. Anyways, now we get to go on to something else. I was gonna say happy stuff, but it's just something else. So Meg gets invited on a trip abroad with some rich French friends, okay? Basically, they're just gonna party for like 2 weeks straight, and they want to bring their pretty friend over as kind of like a wing woman because she's gonna get the male attention. She's super excited to go on holiday, be cute, and act rich for a couple weeks, and she is ready to go as long as Marmee lets her. And Marmee says, "I'm kind of worried that you're gonna come back a worse person, but I'm gonna let you go." And oh boy, Marmee is very smart. She knows her girls very well. She's obviously very excited at all of the opulence that she's going to get to be in the presence of, but then she quickly devolves from being excited into being envious. And she's like, "Well, y'all just get to laze around all day and be pretty and party and wear dresses. And when I go back home, I have to go to fucking work." So the fuck. And it also doesn't help that she's in her tarlatan dress. Okay, and I'm going to put a picture, don't you worry, because I had to look up what that was too. Um, she's in her nicest tarlatan dress. I even have like some a picture that is quite similar to probably what she would have been wearing in the book at this time. It's a very beautiful dress. Um, but it's like, if you went to a cocktail party and you wore your nicest Forever 21 dress, and everyone else has their dresses from, like, Macy's and Dillard's, and you say, "Oh, okay." So even though she is dressed quite nicely, she still sticks out like a sore thumb, and this is only adding to her envy of just being like, it's to the point where it's like, bitch, I can't even fit in. Like, you guys just get to fit in because you're rich and you have nothing else to do all day. But it's just like I can't even fit in. I'm wearing my old like 1820s era poplin instead of my 1880s era because I can't afford it. Not poplin, sorry, tarlatan. Gotta keep my words, tight. And she's just not having it. So she's kind of sulking, receding into herself at the party. But then flowers get delivered to her. Yes, ma'am, flowers get delivered to her. And everyone says, "The poor bitch got a man? The fuck is going on?" Everyone crowds around her and is like, "And who is that from, babe? What fine ass man you got on your ass?" And she says, "Oh, it's just Laurie. He's a friend. It's okay, guys." And they're like, "Laurie? Laurie Lawrence? Laurie Lawrence? Yes, Laurie." In the bouquet, there's also a note from her mom. So basically, Laurie sent the flowers because Joe told him to. And her mom sent a little note along with it. And she tells the girls, like, "Yeah, Lori did send the flowers, but this little note, it is from my mom. So I'm just going to store these flowers away somewhere and get back to the party because it's not like it's a love letter or anything like that." And so that's exactly what she does is she puts away the flowers. She's in better spirits because, now she's the life of the party, right? And she goes dancing and she's having such a sleigh time. There's always some mean girls. There's always some mean girls. So the girls all went into a different room to talk shit about Meg, and they were like, "Well, I know damn well that note wasn't from her mom. It was from fucking Laurie, and she's a whore." Like, dead ass is basically, like, what they're saying. They're like, "She's a liar, and she's a whore, and she's a slut." Yes, well, yes. And this is just absolutely not true. Like, honestly, if she had lied about it being from her mom, I would understand because look at the material. Look at the audience. But she's literally not lying. The note is from her mom. The flowers are from Lori. She was telling 100% the truth. But they keep going. They're like, "Yeah, it's obvious she's just poor and her mom is shacking her up with Lori so that she can get a little cash cow baby." Because everyone knows Lori is rich. And Meg is just like, "So y'all calling me a whore, a slut, what is it called, a gold digger? And you're calling my mom an indecent weirdo. Hello? Y'all invited me here." However, Meg keeps dancing, she keeps her composure because at the end of the day, she wants to flirt with the boys and look cute, right? And she's gonna deal with the bitches later. Well, later comes and the bitches approach her and they're like, Girl, do you know what you should do? We were thinking of inviting Lori to the party tomorrow. Um so maybe you could like give him a call cuz you, like for you, like you obviously want him there. We just want to look at him. Like, girl, y'all are calling her a whore, but y'all are the thirstiest ones in the room. Go get a glass of water. And Meg is like, "Oh no, he probably won't want to come." And they're like, the rich boy that throws parties all the time wouldn't want to come to our party abroad. Why not?" And she's like, he's a bit too young for us, isn't he?" And they're like, "Girl, what the fuck are you talking about? He's a college boy." And she was like, no, he's actually besties with Joe, who's 15, because he's more around her age." Mind you, he's 16. Meg is 16. Like, and even around Joe's age is a year younger than, but she doesn't want to invite him. She has to think on the spot. And basically they get the vibe and they're like, "Oh, okay." And they back off for now. Next thing they ask Meg because I can't believe I forgot this part. While they were talking shit, they were also saying that they wished her dress would get fucked up so that they could put her in a prettier one. So she would stop embarrassing them with her clothing. Keep in mind, she's poor, so this is her only nice dress, and it's white, and they're praying for it to get fucked up. So after the Lori thing, they ask her, they're like, do you want to wear one of our dresses for the next party? We think it would look really cute on you." And Meg is like, "No, I don't want your fucking dress, bitch. I can wear the same dress, actually, to the party tomorrow." And they're like, "No, babe. Look at this." And they bring out this beautiful sky blue, baby blue, feathered, jeweled, delicious, latest fashion dress. And Meg says, "I'm just a girl, put me in that." The next day, she goes to the party and they've, dressed her up, for lack of better words, like a French whore. And when I say for lack of better words, genuinely, though her fashion is the latest fashion and it's very fashionable, often the latest fashions are seen as a little bit skimpy by people who don't wear the latest fashions. So everyone is looking at her and commenting on the fact that for that era, her clothing was thin and resembled their under corsets or something like that. And they were like, "They've done that girl up like a regular French doll they have. What a shame." Mind you, this party is for dancing and fucking on teenage boys, so I really don't know what she expected. But yes, everyone is kind of murmuring and talking about her, and she's like, "Damn, like, even when I'm wearing the rich people clothes, like, I still feel like I don't belong here." So that's great, and what also happens, Laurie is there. Laurie is at the fucking party. Why is he there? Oh, cause Joe told him to go check on her sister. Here. Meg goes up to Laurie and they strike up a conversation, and she's gotta ask him, "Laurie, how do I look?" Now, remember when I said that sometimes Laurie be saying some fuck shit, some fuck shit, some fuck shit? Um, he says, "Well, I just don't really care for the frills and the feathers. It's kind of much." And she says, "You're so fucking rude." And she walks away from him. Of course, Laurie, the little flirt that he is, goes and runs after her and is like, "Yo, girl, like, I might not like your outfit, like, at all, but you're so slay and you're so pretty, and I think we should dance." And, Meg has also been having a drink or two, so she's a little bit tipsy. So she says, "Fuck it, like, I just want to dance. Like, fuck him. Like, he's obviously for Joe anyway. Like, I don't care if he thinks I look hot or not. I just want to dance, girl. Like, let's just dance." Festivities are done. After all the parties, she goes back home and she honestly feels so guilty about the drinking and the flirting and the skin tight dresses and the general whorishness that she goes to confess to her mom. And she's like, "Mom, like, I'm so sorry, like, I acted like a fucking slut, and you told me to be on my best behavior, and I wasn't, and I was drinking, and I was just being a regular whore." And you know what her mom says? I love them, mother. I love them, mother. She says, "Baby, it's okay to like attention. What do you think titties were made for? What do you think the body was made for?" She says, "It's okay to like attention, baby." But she says, when you let it control you and you let the love of attention control you, well, that's when you can lean into doing some unmaidenly things. And she tells Meg, you don't have to beat yourself up over being a teenage girl. And I just really, again, I love this conversation that she has because I feel like this is usually a conversation that you hear with boys. It's like, "Well, you don't have to feel guilty for being a horn dog. You don't have to feel guilty for that. You're just a boy. You're horny. You can't help that you have a boner. So obviously you have to make it everyone else's problem. Yes, you don't have to worry about that." But for women, we're close your legs, stay inside, long sleeves, long pants, loose fit. It's all your fault. But in this, I just really love that she says, "You don't have to be, ashamed for liking attention, babe. I know that you're a pretty girl. Everyone knows that you're a pretty girl. To act as if you're not a pretty girl would be more of an insult to your beauty than to be a little bit of a flirt at a party, okay?" And she tells her mom, "You're right." Spring comes around, and what these girls do, it's not just during a springtime thing, but this is when they bring it up. It's the latest trend is that they're in a secret club and they meet every Saturday and they create a little newspaper, like a little gossip newspaper, basically. But also, they put like short stories and poems, and it's just like a creative outlet, but also a way for them to recoup once a week and keep that sisterly bond among them. And they call it the PC Club or the Pickwick Club. Now, I love reading, guys, but I have never read Charles Dickens. And if I hadn't looked up information about this book to fact check and make sure that I was understanding what was going on, I wouldn't have known that the Pickwick Club and the aliases that they chose were references to Charles Dickens. I have no idea about that shit and I'm probably not going to read it either. So if there are some things I'm missing that go along with the name of the club or the names that they choose for themselves when they're their alter egos in the club, pardon me if I miss it, but I really don't care about Dickens. I just, I don't care. So Meg, as the leader of the group, her Elias when they're in this, and so okay, like I actually did a fair good bit of reading. So I guess in this like Dickens book or whatever, there are these people that make a newspaper and they each have these names. And so Pickwick, I guess, is like the head dude. So since Meg is the oldest, she goes by Pickwick. Beth goes by Tupman, Amy goes by Winkle, and Joe goes by Snodgrass. I'll probably just refer to them as their regular names, but I just think if you get the reference, it's probably a cool little tidbit, and I thought I should include it. Do I care? They go through their stories and gossip for the week, and then Joe stands up to the council and is like, "Hey, I have an announcement." And everyone's like, "Oh, what's going on, Joe?" And she says, "I propose that we add Laurie to the group." And I just have to say, I love Joe, I love Laurie, but girl, you do not need to bring that man everywhere. You do not need to bring that man everywhere. In fact, Meg and Amy both end up saying no. They're like, "No, boys, this is our sisterly thing. What the fuck are you talking about?" And she goes, "Wait, girls, I knew that you would probably say that. Think about it. It's Laurie, okay? He already plays into all of our shenanigans. So, Meg, I know that you're worried about being judged. He's not gonna judge us because he loves this kind of shit. And he's also super creative. He's a little bit smarter. He's got that college editor mind. And like, I just love his brain. And I think he should be in our newspaper." And the girls honestly are convinced. They're like, "You know what? Yeah, Laurie's pretty chill. Whatever, fuck it. Like, just add him, just add him." And then Joe says, "Okay, that's so great because he's actually been in the closet this whole time. So if you guys voted no and stayed like with the no, that would have been like so awkward." And I'm just like, Joe, Joe, let's focus. Let's focus. Obviously, Joe low-key like lied to them. Not lie, but like was doing some fuck shit, right? Sneaking a boy into the closet and having him overhear the entire meeting, because she did this at the end of the meeting, like, is a little bit crazy, babe. Is a little bit crazy. So Meg does try to be mad, but at the same time, Laurie is already playing along. He's thinking of his new Elias, and it's obvious that they're just here for a good time. She has a little smile on her face. She's like, "Man, y'all are so annoying, Laurie." Laurie goes by Weller when he's writing for the newspaper, and he also tells them that as a gift of gratitude for allowing him into the club, that they can use this little, like, building that is on his, estate because they're rich as fuck. And it even has a little mail slot so they don't have to have all these discombobulated papers. That's kind of annoying for Joe to edit. They can just slip all their gossip and pictures and short stories and whatever into that mail slot, and then Joe will have them all in that one place to edit throughout the week, and it'll be super slay. And they actually have a secret building for their secret club now. So as you can see, adding Laurie was a pretty good decision. But let's be real, he and Joe definitely talked about that before. Summer break rolls around and the girls decide to try a little experiment. Okay, they're young girls. They've been going to work, they've been going to school. They're like, "You know what? For the next week, we're going to do nothing but vibe and have fun." And they even tell their mom, they're like, "We're not doing chores, Marmy. We're not cooking. We're not waking up early. We're not doing anything. It's summer break and I don't have to do anything." And Marmy says, "I think you're going to find that that actually will be terrible, but I'll let you see how it goes." And the girls are like, "Girl, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. Having fun for a week. How could that possibly go wrong?" Well, the girls are feeling, kind of disoriented at the beginning of their days because they usually eat breakfast together. Beth will get up and make a little bit of food because remember, she's the housewifely one. Joe will like put flowers in the vases like every morning or every other morning or something. They'll all talk around the table, drink their coffee, da da da. But since they're all waking up late and not doing any of the chores, well, there's no one in the kitchen. There's no fire set up in the stove and everything's just kind of bleak and sad, and they're like, "Oh, But, like, let's keep going though, like, it should be fine. It's just the morning. Fortunately, one of the chores, because the girls are doing no chores, they're doing no work. That's out of the question for this 1 week. Well, Beth has, like, a pet bird, that she just doesn't feed for the entire week because she forgets because she's not doing her chores. So it dies. 100%. Yes, it does. It does. Um, so yeah, still no one wants to admit this was a bad decision and not a fun experiment. Everyone's getting antsy, everyone's getting angry. I mean, you know how you get when you don't clean your house. Imagine just not cleaning your house for like a week and there's 4 children living there, 3 of which, right, 3 of which are teenage girls, okay? And I love my girlies. I love the girlies. But those bathrooms, that shed hair, the period products. It takes a lot to clean up a house, and they are currently not doing that. So everyone's kind of antsy, uncomfortable, and just like, ah. But they don't want to admit that their mom is right, so they keep going. And their mom is like, "Oh, you want to keep going? I'll keep going." So she's like, "Hey, I gave Hannah, the servant, 2 days off." I don't know if I've mentioned Hannah yet. They have Hannah, a servant who is probably Black. So remember when I said that the northern states just liked to say that they weren't with slavery? Really what they meant is, "Oh, the slaves can come inside." And that's where we get The Help. Have you ever read the book The Help? Because that's on my list somewhere. I'm definitely going to read it. Um, is she a slave? No, she is a Black in-house servant. And usually she helps Marmee clean up after and take care of the girls. But Marmee says, "Take the next day, the next 2 days off, babe. Don't come by." And she also tells the girls, "I'm going on a little girls' day as well, so I'm not going to be here. So whatever you choose to do, have fun and good luck. May the odds ever be in your favor." Immediately, as soon as her mom walks out the door, Joe is like, "I want to have a dinner party and I want to invite Laurie." And Meg is like, "This bitch again, like just suck his dick. Oh my God." She's like, "Girl, if you want to do that, you can do that, but I'm not helping you cook, even though you literally don't know how to cook. I don't know how you're going to pull off a dinner party when you can't fucking cook. But I'm not helping you because I know how to cook, and I am not trying to suck Lori's dick that hard, so I'm not throwing a whole dinner party just for a boy. You're doing that all by yourself, even the shopping, the cleaning, all by yourself, babe. I hope you understand that." And I feel like that's very older sister core. Like, I get it, I've definitely had that talk before, with my older sister. I get it. Okay, like, I will do it myself, yes. Thought of it. Okay. That's exactly what Joe said. She's like, "Whatever, I'll do it myself. I can make a really slay dinner." Newsflash, it's completely inedible. All of it. All of it. The lobster she made, she just cooked wrong and it was really tiny, so it wasn't even enough for everyone anyway. Um, what did she make? She made a dessert. Jesus, let's not talk so fast. She made a dessert, and instead of using sugar, she used salt. Um, she burned something. It was just, like, really bad. Um, and the sisters were definitely grimacing and making faces, but, Laurie was having the time of his life, and he was like, "I'm just happy to hang out with the girls. I don't really give a fuck that the food don't taste good." There is this, like, old lady that lives down the way, that's really mean. It's just, like, really crotchety and just a horrible, horrible person to be around, and she crashes the party, and the reason she's horrible to be around is because while she's also crotchety and rude, she loves gossiping. So anything that you do wrong, any slip up, she's like an auntie. You mess up in front of the auntie, the whole family's gonna hear about it within the next 2 hours. It doesn't matter if they live here, 2 states away. I'm checking my phone, 2 countries away. They don't hear about it. She basically auntie, and she's like, "Oh, I wanna have some dinner too." And they're like, "Okay." And so this disaster is happening with this gossipy lady right here, and Joe is just feeling very overwhelmed. The house isn't the cleanest, the food is all nasty, she's embarrassed in front of her little crush, and she's honestly about to cry. Which I understand. I mean, as someone who also loves cooking and baking, it takes hours to make a multiple course meal. You know, she made an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. Okay, like she really did try. Even if it didn't come out well, it still takes effort and energy and hours. And when you make something that doesn't end up tasting good to anyone, it's just like someone kicked you in the stomach. It just feels like so awful because now it's like, it was bad. You feel like you can't tell me it was bad because you can see that I'm tired, but also we're all hungry because the food is bad. So now we have to spend more money and more time to get more food because I can't cook. So that's how she's feeling. And she's about to cry, but then she locks eyes with Laurie and they just start bursting out laughing. And it's just like, you know what, bitch? She says, let's just get the bread, let's get the olives. And they get like one other thing, I forget. And they're just like, let's just have this stupid little dinner and vibe. Obviously, this fancy shit is not working for us. And guess what? It tastes a lot better. They're in good spirits to the point where Laurie is like, hey, let's have an actual funeral for Beth's bird. Let's go have a funeral for Beth's bird. So they all go outside and they say goodbye to her bird. And Beth goes to go cry in her room, right? But well, her room is still dirty, and if you've ever tried to go release emotion in a dirty room, it's just not gonna work, and so we kind of see the consequences of their actions here, and while they did recoup themselves and get themselves together, they still have to deal with those consequences when they go home and they go back to the reality of the house that they've been neglecting, right? So when she gets into her room, she wants to go cry on her bed, but it's fucking atrocious looking. You know, there's probably laundry on it, like there is on my bed right now. Um, and so instead, she's just punching her pillows, and that sadness turns into anger. So Joe and Meg are cleaning up the house, and upstairs, Beth is hitting her pillow while Amy is on a joyride with Lawrence because she's kind of feeling down, kind of feeling sad, because of their terrible experiment. And so Lori's like, yeah, whatever, I'll drive her around while y'all clean up the house and let Beth do whatever she doing. I don't give a fuck. So that's what they're doing. And then Marmy comes home and she's like, hey girls, how did it go? She's like, actually, you don't have to tell me because the crotchety old lady, yeah, she crossed my path on the way home and she told me about your little party. Yes. Well, I'm so proud of you for trying to cook, babe. But I was right, huh? She doesn't just take this opportunity to bag on them. She asks them, you know, what they have learned and what they're going to change. And they all have new goals because they've been so antsy doing nothing that they're like, well, obviously, I need to do something to keep myself sane. So Joe says, well, I'm going to learn how to cook. I don't know about you guys. I'm gonna learn how to cook over the summer. Meg says that she's gonna do some sewing projects. Let's see, da da da. Beth says she's going to study and practice piano since she doesn't go to school anyway. She might as well try and like up her skill. And Amy says that she wants to learn how to make buttonholes and get better at her grammar. Remember, she's the youngest, so I feel like those are pretty good goals. All of the girls are anxious to do something, and Marmy does make sure to remind them, hey, it's good to not only have fun and not do anything productive. I mean, it's not, it's good to have fun and be productive, but don't overwork yourself into overproduction just because you felt a little lazy for a week, right? That doesn't mean that you then immediately have to go burn yourself out. And again, I just love their mom. Like, period, babe. You're right. A little while later, maybe like a couple days or maybe a week later, Jill wakes up to a little letter from her mom saying that, you know, maybe you feel like other people haven't been noticing or you feel like your work has been towards, you know, nothing. But I see that you're working on your temper and I am ever so proud of you. You know, just a good little note of encouragement, which Joe needed because she did feel as though no one was noticing that she was working on herself. And, you know, after that scare with Amy, sorry, after that scare with Amy, she's committed to it. It's something that she wants to do, and it's something that she wants other people to realize she's doing because of how well she's doing it. So the fact that her mom, of all people, you know, the holiest of holies, is realizing that she's making a change in herself and doing something right, it sets her on the right path. It sets her up for a good day, and I love that for her. Later that day, Laurie invites all of the girls to a little garden party with some of his friends from abroad. So obviously, Meg is excited, and the girls all go, right? And they first start off with a game of croquet, which the last two people that are standing are Joe and one of Laurie's friends, Fred, who is cheating. Cheating very obviously and frequently, but guess what? Joe still wins. Joe still wins. But before she wins, she confronts him and she's like, you tapped the ball twice. It's my turn. You're cheating. And he's like, I'm not cheating. And she's like, so wait, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I can do this, Joe. Bite your tongue. And guess what? She wins. So she doesn't have to call him out anyway because she ends up winning. And so obviously, Laurie wants to cheer for his boo, but he realizes internally that maybe he shouldn't cheer against the people he invited. So instead, he just goes over to, whisper to her. You could have just given a thumbs up from across the way. But then he also makes sure to tell her, hey, everyone saw Fred cheating, and I just want to let you know you're a badass for winning, by the way. Um, but if we play another game, he will cheat again because he's a cheater. So you just gotta expect that, babe. And she's like, "Ugh, okay, but thank you for noticing that he was cheating because I thought it was kind of crazy." A little while later, Meg pulls her over as well and is like, "Hey, girl, like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You didn't cuss that guy out for cheating. Like, who is the new Joe? Where is she?" And Joe is like, yeah, don't wish too hard because if he tries me again, this simmering pot of anger is gonna boil over and I'm gonna beat his fucking ass. Kind of run out of games and things to do at this point, and so they play a game of truth. It's not called that, but like basically it's truth or dare, but only truth, and people go around asking one person a question and they have to like rapid fire answer all the questions, right? And so I'm not going to go through all the questions, but there are a couple that I would like to discuss, right? So I'm going to read those real quick and freshen my mind up. So you remember how I said that sometimes Laurie says some fuck shit? Right. So Laurie is asked, who's the prettiest sister? And he says, it's Meg, duh. Why are you fumbling so hard? And here's my thing is Joe literally has grayish eyes. Bag her. Sorry, I don't mean to yell. But then the next question he's asked is, well, which sister do you like the most? And to that he says, well, obviously Joe. Like, why the fuck are you even asking me that? So, he kind of redeems himself. But imagine, like, you got a crush on this dude, and yeah, he pretty much likes you back, but he, any chance he gets, will acknowledge that your sister is prettier than you. Okay, thanks. It's Fred's turn to get questioned and Joe's turn to do the questioning. She makes him admit that he cheated during croquet. Um, and she's like, yeah, that's what I fucking thought, you trick ass bitch. And then the game ends and everyone looks over to find Meg because they're about to leave, and she's talking to a boy. Did you hear my jaw pop? That's crazy. I had to open her a little wider. Meg is over off in the distance talking to a boy, and they're all just kind of gawking at her, and they're like, oh my God, Meg is growing up. Like, one-on-one conversation. And they like really don't want to spoil it, so they're just like, we'll wait until she's done to go home. Um, by the end of the night, everyone is tired, worn out, ready to sleep. They're probably going to sleep real good tonight. And the foreigners, they do believe that American women are a bit ill-mannered, probably because of Joe. But they can also admit that they had a great time and it was a fun party. Laurie knows how to throw a party, and Joe was so real for suspecting that the first Christmas party was Laurie's idea. We're going to conclude our first video on Little Women. I am actually so surprised at this book. I honestly thought I was going to be bored out of my mind for 500 pages, but I was willing to do it because this is just so pretty. But I love the drama. I love the girls. I love Joe. I love Laurie. The characters are like fully fleshed out and amazing. Oh, I love Marmee too. Even the annoying ass scene with Amy, I'm like, it felt so realistic that I loved reading it. I'm just really enjoying reading this book, guys. Oh, also, I did want to say that this book is broken into two parts, okay? Hi. We love the light. So this is part 1. There we go. And we just got finished with chapter 12. So our next video is going to be the second half of part 1, and then we're going to go on to part 2. So we've got 4 videos for that. So make sure that you stay tuned because I'm sure we're going to get into a lot more drama. Hope you guys join me for the next video. And honestly, I hope you read along. This is a pretty accessible book. I'm fairly certain you can find it for free or at least watch some kind of movie adaptation. And I think that would be actually super slay. So maybe check it out. I think I'm going to be doing that. Like, I was a Little Women hater, just because I'm a hater, but now I'm a Little Women. Now I like the book. let's let's yeah, let's not do that. Anyways, all right guys, stay literate.